What is going on? Why are you charging all these expenses to my credit card? I demanded, my voice shaky with anger. Logan's response came with an unsettling calmness. It's a lesson for you, for all the disrespect you've shown me. You'll pay for challenging me like this. A wave of fury coursed through me as I realized his intention to control me through my own finances. Go to hell, Logan, I spat. What he didn't know was that when he returned, something awaited him that would completely shift the power balance. I'm Aspen, 37 years old. A few years ago, my life turned upside down when I found out I was pregnant. What should have been a time of joy, anticipation, and excitement quickly became a period marked by stress and anxiety. Thanks to my husband's emotionally abusive behavior, the man I thought would be my support system during such an important chapter in my life was far more interested in his career than in our growing family. Ironically, Logan was the CEO of a family counseling center, an organization that prided itself on promoting family values and support. The hypocrisy was almost unbearable. He cared more about his professional success than the emotional well-being of his own wife and child. The emotional abuse reached new heights during my pregnancy, taking a physical toll on me. The stress led to complications in early labor. In that terrifying moment, I needed him to be by my side, but Logan was nowhere to be found. As my body fought through the complications, he was busy chasing his next business deal. I held on to the hope that the birth of our son would bring us closer, that it would awaken some semblance of love and responsibility in him. But it didn't. He continued to prioritize his career, leaving me to face the overwhelming challenges of motherhood alone. Sleepless nights, constant worry, and an endless list of responsibilities weighed me down. And despite my pleas for help, Logan's response was always the same, shouting, belittling me, and threatening to make my life even harder if I continued to burden him with what he deemed trivial concerns. Do you find your career more fulfilling than our relationship? I asked one night, my voice thick with frustration. My career gives me the success and satisfaction you can't, he replied coldly. It's not a burden like you are. Do you think taking care of our son is insignificant? I pressed, hurt by his lack of empathy. Don't talk to me like that. I've told you, I'm busy, leave me alone, he snapped. Raising Roy on my own was exhausting. He deserved more than the neglect his father was offering. I've got more important things to focus on than babysitting, Logan had said. I need to concentrate on my career. Then why do you work for a company that prides itself on family values when you can't even take care of your own? I asked bitterly. I've had enough of your questioning. Keep it up, and you'll regret it, he growled. Do your worst. I'm done with your attitude. Maybe it's time for a divorce, and you can see how your perfect family image holds up when I expose the truth, I shot back. Logan hated hearing me even hint at divorce. It was bad for his reputation, and it made him furious. The more I voiced my discontent, the worse his emotional abuse became. Months passed, and Roy grew older with little involvement from his father. Logan's absence became impossible to ignore, but I was determined to give Roy the love and stability he needed. I became both mother and father to him, shouldering the responsibility alone. As Roy's first birthday approached, Logan staged an Oscar-worthy performance. At the celebration with friends and family, he put on a show of being the perfect father. He even invited the media to cover the event, claiming it would be good for his brand. It was all a facade, and I was tired of pretending. But while the cameras rolled, children don't lie, and Roy certainly didn't. Every time Logan tried to hold him, Roy screamed, refusing to go near his father. Only when I or other family members held him did he calm down. The guests were puzzled, but Logan brushed it off with excuses, suggesting everything from his cologne to the possibility of Roy developing an Oedipus complex. Meanwhile, the hired photographers dutifully followed his instructions to avoid sharing anything negative about him, reassuring him that any issues with Roy were merely typical baby fussiness. For someone like me, who saw through Logan's false persona, the event was nothing short of a horror show. But no matter how much Logan tried to fool the world, it only strengthened my resolve to protect Roy and give him the life he deserved. I found a strange comfort in knowing that things had ended without any major incidents. With a father like Logan, a moderately decent party was about as good as I could expect. No amount of acting could mask the ugliness he hid beneath the surface. Despite his polished performance, the truth about Logan's character, his deceit, manipulation, and coldness, would eventually come to light. That truth came sooner than I expected. Right after Roy's birthday, one evening, Logan casually dropped a bombshell. He announced that he and his brother were planning a trip to Hawaii, leaving me completely blindsided. The gravity of his words hit me all at once. How could he plan a vacation now, of all times, when I had just gone back to work and desperately needed his help raising Roy? I decided I needed to confront him. I couldn't let this pass without understanding why he thought this was acceptable. Are you serious about this trip? Don't you realize how much you're neglecting me and your responsibilities as a father? I asked, my frustration rising. Logan barely glanced at me, his voice dismissive. This trip is for me and my brother. I don't understand why you're making such a big deal out of it. I pressed further, my anger mounting. You haven't even considered what this means for me. For Roy, you can't just leave. His eyes turned cold, and he met my gaze with a chilling finality. I'm going, with or without your approval. Stop bothering me about this, he snapped. His words were like knives, cutting through my remaining respect for him. The man I had once adored now seemed like a stranger, selfish, indifferent, and consumed by his own desires. I couldn't understand how he could prioritize a vacation over the well-being of our family. Why had we even decided to have a child if he was going to behave like this? Tears welled up in my eyes as I tried to comprehend the depths of his indifference. We made a commitment, Logan. We decided together to have a child, I said, my voice breaking. Logan's tone turned even colder. I only had the baby to keep up appearances. If I'd known you'd react like this, I never would have had a child. It's a burden I regret every day. His words felt like a punch to the gut. The man standing before me wasn't the one I had married. I had tied my life to a person more concerned with his image than with the happiness or stability of our family. The weight of it all was unbearable, and I broke down, weeping uncontrollably. How had I been so blind? Logan's last words echoed in my mind like a final insult. When I get back, I expect you to be a compliant, obedient wife. No more of this nonsense. That night, something inside me changed. Despite the heartache, I realized I had to protect myself and Roy from this toxic person. I silently vowed to not only meet but exceed his expectations, and to reclaim my independence from his manipulation. When Logan left for Hawaii, I naively hoped that his absence would offer a reprieve from his constant emotional abuse, but it didn't take long before the torment found a new form. A notification on my phone hours after his departure revealed unusual transactions on my credit card, large sums that clearly financed his lavish vacation. Panic surged as I realized what was happening. I called Logan immediately, my voice shaking with a mixture of anger and disbelief. What's going on, Logan? Why are you charging all these expenses to my credit card? His response came with a dark satisfaction. Consider it punishment for all the back talk. You'll pay for defying me. The audacity of his actions sent a surge of fury through my body. Go to hell, Logan, I shouted. In retaliation, he fired back. Oh, you want to act tough now? Fine, I'll max out your credit card. You'll regret crossing me. His threats only fueled my resolve. I wasn't going to be his victim anymore. Go ahead, Logan, do your worst, but I promise you, I will ruin your life the way you've ruined mine. With that, I ended the call and blocked him. Focusing on my next steps, I began researching divorce lawyers, determined to take control of my life and stop living in fear. A close friend recommended an attorney, and within days I had an appointment. After hearing my story, my lawyer advised me to gather evidence to expose Logan's true nature and maximize my chances in the divorce settlement. I scoured through security footage, text messages, and voicemails, carefully documenting Logan's cruel behavior. I reached out to the publicity team he had hired for Roy's birthday, asking for any photos or footage that could prove how even our son felt unsafe around him. The team sympathized with me and willingly provided everything I needed, offering support for my journey toward justice. I spent the next week piecing everything together. I also continued documenting the charges on my credit card, knowing these would be key to proving his manipulative behavior. I chose not to cancel the credit card, confident that I could recover the money in the divorce. I let Logan believe he was hurting me, while secretly planning my own revenge. The evidence I had gathered would be my weapon, and I was determined to use it to take back my life. 1 week passed, and the time to act was near. Logan would be returning soon, and I was ready to give him a surprise he would never forget. His attempts to contact me were becoming more frequent, as he tried to get me to reconsider unblocking him or face the consequences. He even resorted to emails, but I was no longer afraid of him. He remained blissfully unaware that I was collecting every word of his correspondence, adding it to the growing pile of evidence against him. Despite his relentless attempts to reconnect, he continued to leave behind a trail of threats, each more brazen than the last. Though his threats grew increasingly venomous, my resolve for justice only strengthened. If there was ever a moment to cut ties, it was now, especially with Logan halfway across the world. The fear I had once felt was now transformed into determination. The time had come to sever all ties with him, to walk away for good. My focus shifted toward securing a future for Roy and myself, away from Logan's toxicity. I began planning our escape, arranging for us to stay with a trusted friend until I could make a permanent move. Logan's trip to Hawaii, far from breaking me, became the catalyst for my freedom. His attempts to manipulate me only solidified my decision. The storm inside me had been brewing, and I was ready to unleash it. 12 days had passed since Logan left, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of pride in my progress. I had secured legal representation, started building my case, and successfully extricated myself from the suffocating environment he had created. The support from friends and family had been invaluable, and it had made all the difference in my swift escape and recovery. As I finalized the move and packed the last of my belongings, Logan's brother reached out. It was clear he was speaking on Logan's behalf, frustrated and defensive. He accused me of childish behavior and hinted that parenthood had affected my mental state. I took a breath, refusing to let him provoke me. "I'm not interested in discussing this," I replied, my voice steady. "If that's all, the conversation is over." There was a pause, and then Logan's voice came through, dripping with disdain. "Hello, Aspen," he sneered, as if relishing my discomfort. "I'm tired of your defiance. Do you really think you can keep acting like this? Why are you calling me?" I shot back, barely containing my anger. "I don't want to talk to you." "Still playing these childish games? Is becoming a parent messing with your head?" he pressed, as if trying to provoke a reaction. "What do you want?" I asked sharply. He let out a deep sigh, as if he were somehow aggrieved. "I just wanted to let you know that since you blocked me, when I return from vacation, the boys and I are planning a celebration." I almost laughed at his audacity. "You truly amuse me if you think I'll be the one doing everything for you and your family. I have my hands full with the baby, and I'm not about to cater to your ridiculous requests." Logan interrupted me, his voice now laced with amusement. "It's not just me and my siblings coming back. I've invited key people from the company too. So, preparations will need to be made. Make sure the meals are ready, and dress appropriately. We'll be home early in the morning, so everything should be set by then." A wave of fury washed over me. How dare he talk to me like this? Hearing him speak with such entitlement was like a punch to the gut, illuminating just how foolish I had been to tolerate him for so long. I had tolerated it for far too long. Removing the rose-tinted glasses revealed the true ugliness of this man. He was a monster, a demonic presence, and the realization that I had endured his company for so long repulsed me. Instead of confronting him with my newfound strength, I chose to pause, take a deep breath, and gather my thoughts. "All right, Logan, no need to worry," I replied, suppressing the storm brewing inside me. "Your brothers and your superiors are about to be taken aback by what I have planned for you." Logan's voice softened, as if amused by my response. "That's the spirit. That's the kind of partner I desire. We'll talk later. I'll send you a list of dietary restrictions and other details." He finished, and I ended the call, leaving the divorce papers on the kitchen counter alongside my ring. As I packed the last of my belongings, I bid farewell to a chapter of my life that had haunted me for far too long. When Logan returned from his lavish trip to Hawaii a mere 24 hours later, the sight that awaited him must have left him in shock. As he walked through the front door, no doubt his gaze immediately widened as he took in the eerie stillness of the house, the almost empty rooms, and, most notably, the divorce documents resting on the kitchen counter. I could only imagine his stunned disbelief at seeing the life he had so carefully controlled and manipulated slip through his fingers. I longed to witness the full spectrum of shock on his face, knowing that he would soon realize that his dominion over me had crumbled under the weight of my resolve. But my joy was short-lived. Soon after, calls flooded in from his two brothers and from Logan himself. His fury came through the phone, sharp and biting, as I reluctantly picked up. "What's the meaning of all this? Do you think you can just walk out?" Logan raged. "I have crucial shareholders on my side, and they're just as confused as I am." I kept my voice calm and even. "I'm divorcing you, Logan. Your web of deception is unraveling, and you'll be fortunate if you ever feel comfortable showing your face around here again. What's going on? This isn't happening, he stammered, disbelief and desperation hanging in his words. Check the news, I said firmly. As planned, the local tabloid had made his scandalous fall from grace the lead story, with his hypocrisy exposed for all to see. The man who had championed family values as the CEO of a prominent company was revealed as a fraud, a selfish hypocrite, thanks to the cooperation of the publicity team he had hired for our son's birthday party. Logan's true nature had been broadcasted across social media and beyond. The fallout was swift. Colleagues who had once admired him now saw through the facade and deemed him an embarrassment. In a stinging remark, one former superior noted that keeping Logan on staff would be bad for business, emphasizing how out of place he had become in a company founded on family values. Stripped of his title, his reputation, and his once respected place in the community, Logan became a pariah. The man who had been admired was now a pitiful shell of his former self, struggling to salvage the remnants of his shattered life. As for me, I savored the moment of liberation. Divorce proceedings were already underway, and I had built a solid case, bolstered by an ironclad legal team. I was grounded, resolute in my decision to take control of my future. Logan's frantic pleas for my return echoed like a broken record, each one more desperate than the last, but I remained unmoved. His remorse meant nothing to me now. His voice, once a source of comfort, was now nothing more than an echo of the pain he had caused. Aspen, please come back. I've realized my mistakes, and I truly regret them. Our family is worth fighting for, he pleaded, his tone wavering with regret. Logan, there's nothing left to salvage, I responded, steady in my conviction. Roy has taught me what a loving, supportive partnership should look like. We both deserve more than the toxic relationship you've offered. Aspen, I can't live without you, he continued, almost desperately. I gave up everything, and the thought of being without you is overwhelming. I'll learn how to embrace Roy. I'll do whatever it takes. Logan, that's no longer my concern, I replied firmly. This is the outcome of your choices. His sorrowful pleas fell on deaf ears. The emotional scars he had inflicted on me were deep, and no amount of regret could undo the damage. I had learned to love myself and embrace the future I deserved, a life free from the toxicity he had created. His desperation only strengthened my resolve to move forward and build a life I could be proud of. Logan would have to face the consequences of his actions. As the divorce process moved forward, he would learn that the path to redemption is long and difficult when the heart has been broken beyond repair.